Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Bennett, your spiritual counselor and psychic host for Metaphysically Speaking. Welcome. We are here. We're here every second and fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m. And the number that you should call to ask questions on the air is 844-390-8255. And I think that's running underneath the bottom of the screen there. That's 844-390-8255. If you would like an in-person, in Zoom, instead of in person and in Zoom consultation, that's 727-804-4536. So tonight our topic is astrology. Now, I'm not doing an entire program on astrology because that's boring as heck. And many of you are not interested. And that's because A, you've had a bad astrological reading, or B, you didn't like what the astrologer had to say, or C, no one's ever explained it to you and you think it's a bunch of hooey that you read in the newspapers every day. Don't ride your bicycle after 3. That's drivel. And I knew someone years ago who worked for the press in Florida, and she said she had a basket of all kinds of things written, like you'd find in a Chinese fortune cookie. And she just picked 12 out for each day, and that's how she got away with it. And you'll find someone somewhere that applies to. So this is an explanation. And for you to decide if you ever want to get your chart done, if you want to understand more about pacings in your life and time frames in your life, and certain predispositions you may have, certain reasons you may or may not like certain things or certain people, why you're more comfortable, say, flying in the air. You always wanted to be a pilot or a crew member or an astronaut, or you always were fascinated by being a fireman or a fire person, because we have women being fire people these days, and certainly as emergency workers. Or you were always fascinated with the gardens and planting and trees and ecology and saving the planet. That will help you understand. So I am going to show you, if you're driving, just pay attention to this after you get home, and you can run us again after you're there, because you can't see it now. And I don't want anybody quick looking at their iPad while you're in traffic. So this is an astrological chart, and it looks like a clock. 12 o'clock is called the midheaven. We have, I can't see, backwards, upside down.
Yeah, you got it.
6 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Yeah, 3 o'clock would be over here. And 9 o'clock is a very important position. And I'll explain why. But you'll notice that there are 12 houses, and there's writing in each one of the houses. And the first house, which would be at the 8 o'clock position, because in astrology, everything goes counterclockwise. Clockwise is masculine, counterclockwise is feminine. And if you know anything about Irish history, or the Druids, ancient Celtic history, they were in a feminine vibration, and they had 13 months, which was actually quite logical numerology. And the masculine aspect took over, and it also makes sense with a few adjustments. Remember, February has 28 days. Every 4 years, I think it is, it's 29, but that still doesn't account for 30, 31 days. Just saying. So your first house deals with the physical body, your personality, your outward personality, appearances, outlook on life, and new beginnings. Now, don't let anybody ever tell you that if you don't have different aspects in every single house, you're not balanced. I heard that once and laughed in the astrologer's face, took my check back, ripped it up, and left, because I knew enough about astrology to know That woman was full of it. Also, there's another philosophy that whatever your 9 o'clock position is, which is your rising or ascendant, which is what your sun sign will be in your next lifetime. Yes, people, this is not all there is. You've heard of reincarnation. It is accurate. I've had 12 near-death experiences. I promise you, it's accurate. So whatever your 9 o'clock position is, that is what your sun sign will be next time. So that's the 12th house. So it's between 12 and 1. Backwards. 12 and 1. And if you don't have anything in a certain house, it simply means you don't have karma to deal with this particular lifetime in that house. That's all it means. I have everything above the horizon. That would be the 3 to 9 position. I have everything up here. Some people have everything in every house. Some people don't have anything in 3 houses or 4 houses. Some people have everything below the chart. It's what your karma is. Your karma is law of cause and effect. You reap what you sow. It's your lessons for this lifetime. And that's what an astrology chart will do. It'll tell you basically what lessons you are dealing with. The second house is values, possessions, earning ability, inner and outer resources, and liberty. Do you care about feeling free and being free? Do you want to work for yourself? Or do you want to work for a large corporation because you think that's safe? I think anybody in the last 25 years who thinks that it's safe to work in a large corporation has been sorely disappointed. Values and possessions, are they important to you? Do you need to have a giant house? Do you need to have a Rolls Royce or a Bentley or whatever sports cars are in trend right now? Your ability to acquire money. Interestingly, I have nothing in that house because everything is up here. The third house is communication, early education, short trips, conscious mind, brothers and sisters. I have no brothers and sisters. I've had many short trips. And I'm really good at communication. I'm a Gemini sun sign. Gemini rules communication. In spiritual or esoteric astrology, it's the male energy of God, the power of thought. The thought inside the soul, which is where all thought should take place. The thought patterns and communication on your mental mind rather than your spiritual mind. And this is what you learn in school, for instance, what you learn from a book. And in your physical self, where you can communicate effectively to others. You will find that most teachers have an aspect in this particular sign. I don't, because I'm a Gemini. So I don't need anything in that particular sign. The third house deals with communication, we just talked about that. The fourth house deals with parents and your home, property, real estate, later part of your life, base of operations, and endings. Are you good at putting things in the past that should be in the past? Are you good at acquiring real estate? If you've got something there, you should consider real estate and real estate investment, anything to do with real estate, as one of your strong points and avocations. The fifth house is children, creativity, romance and love affairs, speculation, and amusement and sports. Now, speculation is interesting because we think of speculation today in terms of the stock market. But if you think of speculation, people speculated, for instance, in the Netherlands on tulip bulbs in the 1400s, I believe it was. Well, lots of people gained a lot of wealth. And if they were smart enough to sell, if the price of tulips was pretty high before it reached its peak, they made a lot of money. People who kept their money and thought the price for tulips should go on forever didn't do so well. They went broke. They lost their homes. They lost their wealth. They lost everything. Because after all, you get a bad crop, you're not going to get your tulips. So we think of speculation as chances in life. That could also mean how you do in gambling. I don't believe anybody should gamble unless you're a professional gambler and your house and your cards and your kids and your wife and your retirement fund is already paid for, stashed away, you're all safe. And then you take a certain amount of money and you gamble it. That's it. Do you have children? I had 3 miscarriages in my life, but I was fortunate later in life to get a daughter. And her mom, who I knew, asked me to take care of her. And I have, and she's taken care of me. So even though I didn't have any birth children, I've been lucky enough to get a wonderful daughter and a son-in-law. So it's interesting how things work out. The next house is the 6th house, and that deals with your health, your work habits, service given to others, the unconscious mind, and pets. Now, I've always had pussycats. I also volunteered for a rehab center in Florida, and I doubt that they're still in business because I think the owner has passed away. But I left when I found out that it was really turning into a breeding situation. And that's what happens to a lot of rehab people. They find that it's so expensive to get grains and proper foods. For instance, a llama is not going to eat the same thing that a cow is going to eat. A cow is not going to eat the same thing that a pig will eat. Tigers are not going to eat the same thing that a cow is going to eat. So you have to have all different menus, and it's got to be fresh food. If you find that there are sick animals there and you see vomit, if you ever go in one of those places, you know those animals are being given bad meat and bad hay, and they're going to be dying off. That's what happens. So in order to make money, they say, okay, we'll breed this horse. We'll breed this tiger. And they think they're going to do it just once. That doesn't happen. It happens over and over and over again until they become part of the tragedy of morons who think they should have a tiger at home. This is very big in the Middle East. It's also big in many Asian countries. Nobody needs a tiger. Nobody should have a tiger. The average male Bengal tiger gets to be 400, maybe 450 pounds, maybe 500 if it gets to be older and it's got a lot of food to eat. The average, that's a Bengal tiger, that's from India. The average Siberian male is 800 pounds. You think 800 pounds is the size of a car. They have a 10-foot stretch. They've got huge bodies, and I know because I helped nurse them. And they got started on that because several people got tigers, and they couldn't believe how fast they grew, and they got scared. So they turned them over. And at that point, Fish and Game was working with the center. So they pull a tiger out of some idiot's house or garage, and they'd bring it over. Same thing with wolves. The idea of mixing a wolf and a dog is as dangerous as mixing a coyote and a wolf. They're called coyote wolves. We don't know how it happened because coyotes and wolves are sworn enemies, and wolves hate coyotes and they usually attack them and kill them. They're 3 or 4 times bigger than a coyote, and the coyotes eat the same food that they do, and they also eat the wolf puppies. But somehow there must have been a coyote girl in heat and a wolf male nearby, and that's what got started on the coyote wolves. Coyote wolves can either be, and I'm telling you this because it's happening all across the country, Wolves will have both characteristics. Now, wolves naturally do not want any part of you. They will stay away. You could have a wolf living a half a mile away from you, moseying around in your yard at night, and you will never know it. They don't want you to know. A coyote, on the other hand, will come into your house. And when I lived in Denver, that happened to two people in my neighborhood, 2 blocks away. And they took babies. One climbed into the playpen outside and dragged the kid out. The mother happened to look out the kitchen window and couldn't believe what she was seeing and ran outside with a broom and had to hit the coyote to make it let go of her child, who obviously had to go to the hospital and get rabies and treatment to save the arm. The other one was in the bathroom and heard the door open and close. She thought, that's crazy. And she got up, and there, remember those little wheelie things the kid would sit in like a high chair, and they're supposed to move their little legs. Well, they discovered how awful those things were. But at the time, the coyote was pulling the child out the door. So the first in and out was the coyote coming in. The second was the coyote pulling. You're going to say, well, how did the coyote get the door open? Very easily. They just used their mouths to open the handle, and was pulling the child. And the kid was screaming because, you go down a step and then you're on this little landing and you go down the steps. The kid was screaming because it was catapulting forward, and the coyote had it by its arm. So that was another session. Coyotes can either be much larger than a coyote and shy, or much larger than a regular coyote and be extraordinarily aggressive, which is what coyotes are. Kai wolf. Yeah, Kai wolf. Thank you. That's my executive producer. A Kai wolf. A coyote is the same. I'm sure you've all seen pictures of the coyotes sleeping in the subway in New York City and also in Seattle, sitting on people's decks, sunning themselves, sitting on a deck chair, those above ground pools, sitting on one of the lounge chairs, looking over the pool in the backyard, like it was the owner. You don't know what mixing breeds can do. So if you ever see anything that looks extraordinarily different, call your local fish and game people or 911, because that animal needs to be euthanized. It's out of species. It can't be trusted. You cannot mix a wolf and a dog. Why did they do that? Because it's not illegal in the state of Florida. Everything's legal in the state of Florida with the morons that have been governors for the last 20 years. So you can buy a wolf-dog combo. It's not illegal. And as long as DeSantis is in, it won't be legal. It'll continue to be legal. The problem is it'll have the same kind of mix-up characteristics. And the problem is wolves don't want to be in your basement. They don't want to be in an enclosure. They're used to having a 400-mile range, sometimes longer if they have to travel, like in Alaska or Canada. And the older they get, the madder they get. And I've never heard of one who didn't have to be euthanized. So you get it, it's cute, it's frisky, it's adorable, it's funny, it plays with your kids, but then the older it gets, the madder it gets. And many of these people have promised that they will not have it neutered because they want the people they got it from to be able to breed it. Stay away from this, people. If they're from the woods, they belong in the woods. Get yourself a pussycat, get yourself a regular dog, and stop screwing with wildlife, because you and the animal are going to suffer. Okay. Service given to others. Many people who are doctors and nurses.
What house is that, Linda?
That is the 6th house that we were just talking about with pets and unconscious mind. Many people who are caretakers, nurses, massage therapists, doctors, in-house medical people have aspects in this particular house because it's something that you naturally want to do based upon your karma. Maybe in other lifetimes you were a medical person and you miss it. Maybe in other lifetimes you missed having the opportunity to be able to help people, and now you really want to do that. In the 7th house, it's public relations, open enemies, marriage partnerships, and other people. So you want to make sure, if you have anything there, that you take care of everything. Now, I had my TV show for about 16 years in Florida, in Pinellas County, and everyone who said they didn't watch it, of course, always had comments about the show. And I'd say, well, if you didn't watch it, how do you know? Oh, well, I saw it that one time. But then, when you had the... I had AC Nielsen do a non-for-profit volunteer. They couldn't believe it themselves. Statistical run. And they said every man, woman, child, dog, and cat in Pinellas County was watching my show. And everywhere I went, people recognize me. Even though they may say, oh, I don't watch it that often. Then how'd you recognize me? Anyway, my public relations, because of my credibility, were very good. But I didn't have public relations people. My public relations people turned out to be viewers. And there were many people who told me that they would tape 4 or 5 shows on a tape and send it up to their friends in Iowa or Wisconsin or California, Seattle. We used to send it up to Connecticut to my friend Mary and Jeff, and then she would send it to my cousin Fran or vice versa. So that kind of thing spread. And then Fran would have people come over to the house and they'd watch the show. So I didn't have public relations people or an outfit, but the continuity of the information was spread everywhere. Number 8 is the house of taxes. Partners' resources. Did you marry someone who is not honorable and maybe owes the IRS lots of money? Maybe owes lots of people lots of money. That is a tricky situation because when you get married, you are now responsible. Inheritances, generation, which is sex. Have you produced children? Regeneration and death. Regeneration can mean regeneration of people. It could mean emotional regeneration. It can mean spiritual regeneration. It could mean physical regeneration. You give that person another chance at life. Say the person is a drug addict and you give them the opportunity to be able to clean up. If they don't, you didn't do anything wrong, they did. Which is another topic I have to cover. Marriage partnerships. I married 2 men who I knew I had karma with. And the first one, I may have mentioned this before, my secretary and I were walking up the pathway, and because it was facing southwest, they had the bronzing on the outside of the windows to keep the sun from beating in. And I knew exactly where the man was they wanted me to date. I could feel his energy, and I could feel it over here looking at my secretary. And Joanne was stunning. She had long, blonde, naturally frosted hair, not fair. And she had gorgeous blue eyes with her own long eyelashes. And she was great. And she was a wonderful person. She had a really nice marriage after that. But before we got up to the door, Mary and Mother stood off to the side and said, "You'll marry, but you will not grow old together." And then we opened the door. Can you imagine that? Mary standing in front of you was just shocking enough. And then you'll marry, but you will not grow old together. That was stunning. All of it was stunning. We opened the door, and I knew it was him rather than the other 2 people. And of course, I knew the owner. And I knew exactly who it was. I knew him from before. He was a handsome guy. My friend Mary used to call him movie star gorgeous. And I thought he was nice looking. I didn't think he was movie star gorgeous, but what did I know? And it was true. We had so much karma together. And the second one, I knew we had karma as well. Different relationship, but the two things they had in common. I don't know if we'll discuss the second one today, but the first one was they were extraordinarily narcissistic, selfish people. Camouflaged, of course, in fabulous behavior and business acumen, but extraordinarily passive-aggressive and whiny and sulky. There are a couple of things I cannot stand. Whiny is one, sulky is another one. And I got the both of them. But that was karmic. And I wanted to get it out of the way. Because my life has been, from the very earliest part, get it done. Take care of business. Move it forward. And make sure you do it right. Because to run through, say, a marriage, what if I had not learned the lessons and understood where he was coming from and not wanting any part of it? That wouldn't have been good if I had just breezed in and out. I had to learn the lessons of why he was the way he was, why I was reacting the way I was reacting. And I will just say that we were married in our last lifetime. That's an interesting story, which we will tell at another time. Number 9, this is where it's really tricky. Law, in-laws, the superconscious mind, philosophy, religion, and long trips. I've had some long trips as well. I've not had problems with the law, say being arrested or anything, but I have problems with law, certain laws. I don't think anybody should be drinking and driving and thinking that's okay. I don't think anybody should be stoned on marijuana. Yet everybody seems to think it's funny. I've studied philosophy, I've studied religions since I was a child. You never stop learning. If you have an interested mind, and you say, wait a minute, that was over here in the Druids, and that was here in the Jews, and that was here in the early Christians, and that was here in the Mayans. You want to make the connections. This may be, when you say long trips, it might be that you're in the airline industry or the cruise industry. And that could be a good aspect for you. Unless you get deathly ill on the ocean like I do. I get sick in seawater, not in fresh water. Sick in large planes, not in small planes. The next house is the 10th house, and that's ego. Profession, status, reputation. A parent. Do you have problems with a particular parent? And authority. These are the anti-vaxxers. No one's going to tell me I have to get a vaccination. Let's see what you're like if polio comes back again. Let's see what you're like if measles comes back again. Whooping cough, which was two of my death experiences, the measles and whooping cough. So, do you have an ego problem? Are you narcissistic? Work for that to be over. Get good therapy. Narcissists think that they're more important than everybody else and their needs are more important. And that, whatever they want, they should have. Normally, naturally. Because that's it, that's them. What is your profession? They normally have professions that have great prestige attached to them. They want to be the CEO, they want to be the head chef, they want to be the principal. They're not happy just being the teacher, they want to be the principal of the school, etc., etc. Reputation. They worry not only about their own reputation, but they worry about is your reputation catching up with theirs. Many times these people who are narcissists, especially if they're dealing with sociopathy or psychopathy, will ruin you. These are the people who leave vicious remarks on the internet. They're not only narcissists, but they're sociopaths. They don't care about anybody else's feelings. They just care about projecting themselves so they get this reputation of being fabulous and important. Is that the kind of person you are? If it is, you need help so that you can be a better person. I'm not personally looking to change you. It's my job to help you understand yourself so that you can get the proper guidance. You can get the proper counseling. The next house and the house after that, 11 and 12, are very tricky. Tremendous amount of karma attached. Hopes and wishes, goals and objectives, circumstances beyond your control, and friends. Do you have hopes and wishes? Have you achieved any of them? We often get to a certain point where we think, oh, nothing I've ever wished for has come true. But then sit down and think about the things that maybe you wished for when you were 5, when you were 10, when you were 20. What did you want? What did you want to accomplish? What did you always want to do? Did you always want, the fairy tale princess, wonderful wedding, and you had to elope? Are you okay with that? Maybe you had a lovely party when you came back. Maybe you had a party, a big bang up, wonderful occasion at your 10th wedding anniversary or your 25th wedding anniversary. The goal of getting married, the important thing, is to dream of a fabulous wedding with a fabulous dress. It almost didn't matter when you were married. Was it your dream to be an airline pilot? Well, suppose you couldn't be an airline pilot. That doesn't mean you have to give up. You could be an air traffic controller. You could be a teacher. Just say you couldn't handle the altitude, which you could be an instructor. You could work for NASA. You could work at a private airline, or you could work at a private airport as the air traffic controller. Everyone has to have one. So therefore, you can work things around so that you'll reach some of your goals and your dreams. Circumstances beyond your control. I've got several things in that house. That means that things happen to you because they're karmic and you got no control over it. You are like a baby in the woods in the middle of the ocean. Whatever happens, happens. Remember, it's not just what happens. It's how you handle it. Now, if there's a shark heading your way and you're a baby in the middle of the ocean, take a deep breath and this is how you die. Okay, we all have to die of something. That's not the best way to go in the jaws of a shark, but it's quick. You're not dying of a long disease. Think about that. You are not supposed to live beyond a certain point. Not everyone gets to be 100. I frankly don't plan on being 100. So therefore, you have circumstances all through your life that are out of your control, and it's how you respond to them. Did you respond to them with dignity? Or did you get mad, but then get over it and say, I'm startled, like, what the heck is going on with my life? And then get a grip. And even if you don't fully understand it and you try to get some help, or you ask people involved, maybe people who observed it, and then get their perspective and find out what really happened. And then you could better understand the situation. Friends. It's hard to have really good friends anywhere, anybody. You can have a lot of associates, but a friend is someone you can call at any time, who will be there for you. You're there for that friend. And it's almost like your brothers and sisters, that you care about each other, you'll do for each other, you'll make each other's lives successful. The 12th house is called the house of your own undoing. Limitations, frustrations, hidden strengths, subconscious mind, and subconscious events happening around you. Now, I had the opportunity recently to agree to go to Salem, Massachusetts. And I thought, well, I have a friend who was born in Salem. She's Carol Perry. She's an author. I've talked about her books before. She writes a lot of children's stories and she writes a lot of murder mysteries. She was born on Halloween Eve in Salem, Massachusetts, and she's a fabulous person. She's not into Wicca, which is what witchcraft is. It's the worship of the male-female energy of God through nature. And protecting resources, being honorable with how you treat each other and how you handle the earth. Many Wiccans have their home farms. Many Wiccans grow flowers, and some of them grow flowers for florists. It's a religion that I'm not attracted to because there's too many rules and regulations and things you have to remember. I prefer just to meditate and work with nature. I've always been great with nature, and I've always been great with animals. But this means you have hidden strengths that you are not aware of, or that you're aware of, but you don't let others be aware of. But it's your self-undoing if you don't know what your limitations are. If you lose sight of what your true mission on the planet is. There was a movie that I saw recently, I think it was on Turner Classic Movies, called No Time for Sergeants. Andy Griffith played, and I don't know if you remember him, but he was on the show with little baby boy Ron Howard. And I see reruns.
The Andy Griffith Show.
The Andy Griffith Show. Oh, okay. The Andy Griffith Show. Hey, what a concept. Hey, that's the show he was on. Common sense, I'm out of it. But he played a sergeant in a movie. And I don't think he was a sergeant, he was a private. And the sergeant didn't like him because he thought he was dumb. The whole battalion thought he was dumb. And he assigned him the latrines. Well, he went in and he was appalled at the condition of the latrines. Just simply appalled. And so he scrubbed and sterilized those latrines so that you could eat off the floor. And when the sergeant came in, and when the others came in, they were shocked out of their minds. He said, "Did I do a good job?" Nobody could believe what they were seeing. This is the way they should look like. Not like subway toilets. I was in one subway toilet once in my life. I said, I will drop dead before I will ever go in another one. In New York City. This was years ago. Much has changed in New York. But he did such a brilliant job and said, well, that's the way it should be. It should be clean for everybody. Everybody should be comfortable being able to go to the bathroom. They were so stunned at how honorable and sincere he was that they all felt very, very guilty about making him a scapegoat. So I think that's a really good lesson for everybody. If you think you're putting somebody down, who are you really putting down? And it's the subconscious mind, the part of the mind, not the superconscious mind, which is in house 9. The superconscious mind works with the angels, the higher sources of God. That is the level that Mary would talk to you on, especially in a rush, going up a pathway. The subconscious mind is your deep subconscious, where your past lives live, where the mission that you came to accomplish lives. And if you meditate, for instance, or sit and stare at a tree, or sit with your back against a tree and look at the blades of grass, and look at the leaves, and look at any flowers, even just clover. I used to be fascinated with clover because bees like clover. And I used to sit in the yard under the willow tree. And I was amazed at how many bobbling clover heads were happening out throughout the yard. It was crazy. There were bees on every clover head. And I just couldn't get over that. And how could another bee fly on top of that bee and on top of that clover head and have enough nectar? That fascinated me as a child. You can get in touch with your subconscious mind that way. You can get in touch with God that way. Your guardian angels that way. You don't always get it by 3 Our Fathers and 3 Hail Marys. If you're truly sincere and that's your methodology, because you've never been taught how to meditate, then if you're sincere and you need the awakening, you will get it. But I've always felt more in touch with God and the angels outside, in nature, than I have inside a building. Never felt it inside. So therefore, this is the subconscious mind that will help you uncover many of your so-called secrets. Now you're going to say, well, why don't we remember all our lives like we remember what we did yesterday? Well, there isn't enough room in your brain. You live hundreds, probably thousands of lifetimes, and not all of them till you were 70 or 80 or 90. Some you lived to draw breath. Some you lived till you were 3 or 5 or 10 or 20. Some you died in war, some you died of disease, some died by the plague. Some died by having a cart run over you. Some died in a house fire. There's millions of ways to die. So these houses tell you you need your time of birth. Don't let anyone say, well, we can approximate it, because it'll be approximated. It won't be your chart. And you can often find out by contacting the hospital you were born in, or calling your family pediatrician and see if they have it recorded. And my Aunt Marie told me something interesting. She was a surgical nurse and did OBGYN as well sometimes. And she said, nobody has the time to write down exactly when you were born. So when they sit down to do the paperwork, they look up at the clock and they say, okay, 6 o'clock. Okay, 3 o'clock. 3:15. Oh, didn't I take my breakfast at that time? Oh, no. Oh, that was my lunch. Oh, what time did I go to lunch? So you have to get as close as possible, because your 9 o'clock position between the first house and the 12th house and the first house, is what your sun sign will be in your next lifetime. And on my charts, I have your past, your present, and your future. Now, say you're a Taurus moon, Sagittarius sun, and a Leo rising. That means in your next lifetime, your rising will be your sun sign, and your current sun sign will be your moon. So you can see.
Could you explain what that is? So in the next lifetime, you'll be a Leo.
Yes, in your next lifetime, you would be a Leo. And your moon position, which is your sun sign now, would be Sagittarius. So that would give you a good sense of humor, the ability to communicate further. And Leo in women is especially good. In men, it's not so good because there's an insecurity. I always say, think of the African lions. The male sitting there with his beautiful mane. He's just admiring himself and having everybody else admire him in the sun. And he says, oh, there's a flea on my nose. And he gets very concerned. There's a flea on my nose. It must look awful. The female, on the other hand, just says, shut up. We have work to do. We've got to go kill a gazelle to feed the children. And of course, who runs out? The women do. And who sits on his fanny waiting? The men. So, you want to know what your rising will be so you can start working on some of those aspects of the sun. We don't have time to cover all of them. But there are sun signs that are better than others because they're not as intense. It's every other sign that's really intense. And you think, well, why not every third? And what? Well, because you got work to do. And you get a little rest. With the signs that are easier, you get a rest. And there are higher aspects to each sign and lower aspects to each sign. The male lion can get off his fanny and stop worrying about the flea on the end of his nose and protect the females who are hunting the gazelle from other predators. Hyenas are miserable. They attack the lions. They attack the prey. They may not come out alive, but they attack. They could be more proactive in taking care of the family. They don't have a problem with eating the children if they're not sure all of them are theirs. So that's a lower aspect. A higher aspect is to be tremendously protective and be the guardian of the family. When sadly, most of the time, it's the aunts of the family that are the protectors and the grandmothers, or the mothers and the grandmothers are taking care of the children. So there's a higher and a lower aspect. In Taurus, the aspect is stubborn. The negative aspect is stubborn, intractable. You won't move off a position. I always say it's like the bull sitting on the edge of the railroad tracks, munching away at the buttercups that look particularly delicious at the railroad tracks. And a little Gemini friend saying, wait, get off the tracks. There's a train coming. And the bull says, it'll stop. It sees me. And the little Gemini says, it's not going to stop. It's a train. It's its job to get from here to there without you being in the way. And the bull said, I am here. I'm not moving. It will stop. Smash. Of course, the train didn't stop. And the bull's spirit is hovering around saying, what happened? And the Gemini said, I told you to get off the tracks. But I was sitting there. The train didn't care. So the higher aspect of Taurus is, oh, I see it. Okay, I don't want to move. I'm really enjoying these buttercups, but I'll get up in a timely fashion, like now. And I'll let the train go by, and I'll finish up the buttercups. And by the way, let me help you with that cart, because you're just a Gemini. You're very smart, you're very crafty, you've got great communication, but you're not as strong as you think you are. So I will move the cart for you before you break your neck. And uses its strength to be helpful. Uses its strength to be protective. There's a higher and lower aspect of Taurus. It's also important, and in my chart, which I've never seen one like it, but I've said to people you can copy it. I color code mine. I don't do them anymore, by the way, because no one wants to pay what it costs me in time and effort. But I have down here the moon, which deals with emotions. And I color that in blue, and I mark it in the house that it's in. So if you lose your tape, because I let everybody tape everything, it's still self-explanatory when I get finished with it, because your chart is color-coded.
But you don't do them anymore.
but I don't do them anymore. So you'll have to find someone who has my standards and will do it, but you understand it. Because the chart is for you. It's for you to help understand what your lessons in life are and how you can overcome them. It's an opportunity for you to have something in front of you that shows you and warns you what the aspects are. And you can get it updated because time moves forward, and so do you. But your natal chart is always important. That is the karma that you came through with. These are the trials and tribulations you're going to deal with. These are the blessings you're going to deal with. And everybody has trials and tribulations and blessings. So please find a good astrologer in your town or somewhere local. They don't pay me, I shouldn't bother, but they have a good program, 1-800-MAPPING. And you can say, Linda Bennett, they may have forgotten who I am because I don't do them anymore, but they have a very good program, very accurate program. But it depends upon you. You need to know the exact time of birth, not sometime in the afternoon, not later on in the evening. Later on in the evening to me is 10 and 11 and 12 and 1. So you need the precision because that's the chart of your life. You're entitled to have the important chart of your life. In royalty, someone was always there marking when you just drew your first breath. You don't take life on the planet until you draw your first breath. That's a discussion about abortion, about miscarriages, etc. But you do not become a person until you draw your first breath. And then your responsibilities start. You're going to say, responsibilities? Yes. Like me reminding you that we are on every second Tuesday, every fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m. It's on Facebook and it's on the radio. How do they get the radio?
Internet radio. Internet radio.
Internet radio. You may say, Linda, don't you know all about this? No, I don't know. There are certain things I cannot do, and I say fine, because I'm not meant to do them. I don't want anything that's going to detract from my psychic ability. And so therefore, I leave others who are excellent at it to be able to hook me up, to be able to make this come through to you, and hopefully help you in each and every way. And remember, if you just open up your hearts and minds to God's universal truth, you are going to know that God and the angels are always with you. Namaste. I'm Linda Bennett.